Hey guys, Dave from DPM Photography back with you. In today's video, I want to talk about a lot of comments that were posted on my 7D Mark III rumors video. In particular, one question that stood out was asked by Anvils for Sale. He asks, how will the 7D Mark III compare to the Nikon D500? I need a high shutter speed and low light performance like the D500 for wildlife on my farm in Costa Rica. Hashtag jealous. I have decent glass for my beloved Canon 80D. Should I wait for the Mark III or go for the D500 on a 2-camera system? Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. Straight away, my gut instinct will be to tell you, do not go for a 2-lens system. If you like the look of the D500 that much, then switch from Canon over to Nikon. Now, you didn't state exactly what lenses you've already got for the 80D, but given the fact that you said you need a higher shooting speed and low ISO performance like the D500 for shooting wildlife, I'm going to guess that you're already photographing wildlife, so I've probably already got some long telephoto lenses in a Canon mount. But right now, the 7D Mark III is really just rumors. I think it's probably going to be within the next 12 months we will see the 7D Mark III, or at least know more for sure what we can expect from it. The 80D is not a bad camera for taking wildlife photos. That extra 3 frames a second in the D500 will help, and the autofocus system in the D500 or the 7D Mark III is going to be better than the 80D, but the 80D is not a bad system. So if you can hang with it for now, I would say stick with the 80D until we know more for sure about the 7D Mark III. So how do I think the 7D Mark III is going to fare up against the D500? Well, don't get me wrong, the D500 is a great camera for enthusiast wildlife and sports photographers, but the camera is now 2 years old. So in technology terms, it is really kind of long in the tooth, and probably wouldn't surprise me if Nikon release a newer version of it, maybe a D600 or something like that, within the next 12 to 18 months anyway. It's got a good shooting speed, it's got a good autofocus system, but so's the 7D Mark II. The 7D Mark III is likely to shoot slightly quicker. Autofocus speed is probably going to be improved as well. In terms of low light performance, which I guess is a key issue for Anvils here, this has been a hot topic for a few people as well. In as much as a few people have questioned if the 7D Mark III is using the sensor from the 80D, is it really going to be any better in terms of low light performance? And I think the answer is yes. Now you have to remember that the 80D is a general purpose enthusiast's camera, whereas the 7D series is steered more towards sports wildlife photographers who want that better noise performance because they're shooting higher ISOs a lot more. Now, we need to make an important distinction here in terms of what controls noise. Low ISO noise performance is really more about how well you can recover shadows and highlights in post-processing, which is more determined by how clean the signal is coming off the sensor. So the big thing with the 80D was that it used an on-sensor analog to digital converter rather than one that was based near the sensor, so it didn't introduce as much interference before it got to the processing unit. High ISO noise performance, on the other hand, is more to do with how well the processing unit can boost the signal that's come off the sensor and filter out the inherent interference that comes with it. So if the 7D Mark III does use the sensor from the 80D, it's probably going to have very similar dynamic range at low ISOs. However, its high ISO performance will inherently be a lot better. We know this by looking at the 7D Mark II. The 7D Mark II used the same 20 megapixel sensor that was in the 70D. Now the 70D was fitted with a single Digic 5 Plus processor. The 7D Mark II was fitted with 2 Digic 6 processors, so had a lot more processing power to play with. Now obviously a lot of that processing power went towards things like running the autofocus quicker or being able to shoot faster and save the information faster, but a chunk of that power will have gone towards increasing the high ISO noise performance. And that is clear, the noise performance in the 7D Mark II is better than the 70D. Now the 80D is fitted with just a single Digic 6 processor. We'll likely see the 7D Mark III, however, fitted with 2 Digic 7 processors, which means that even if it takes the same sensor as the 80D, and while its low ISO noise performance is probably going to be very, very similar, once we get that signal boosted up into the higher end of the spectrum, I think the noise performance from the 7D Mark III is going to be a lot better than the 80D. When it comes to 7D Mark III versus D500, I think the Canon is going to win hands down. Historically, Canon have always fared better at high ISO than Nikon, whereas Nikon have always managed to produce better low-end dynamic range. Then factor in that the D500 by then will be close to 3 years old versus the 7D Mark III being brand new, then I think it's fair to say that the 7D Mark III is going to be quicker at shooting and have better noise performance as well. So my advice to you right now would be, if the 80D isn't cutting it for you and you do want a better camera, sell the 80D and the lenses and make a full jump over to Nikon. But really, I don't think that's the wisest idea. I think you'd be far better off just hang with the 80D for a little bit longer, and you'll more than likely find that the 7D Mark III gets announced and is going to blow the D500 out of the water. But what do you guys think? Do you think Anvil should stick with the 80D? Do you think he should switch over to Nikon? Leave your comments down below, let me know what you think. And as always guys, I'll see you in the next video.